The bugler's notes cracked like gunfire in the damp Virginia air, each somber wail ripping through me as if it were carving out my heart. I clutched the folded flag they just handed me, its stars blurring through the hot sting of tears, while the casket, my boy's casket, sat there under the relentless drizzle, mocking the hero's send-off we'd all bought into. And then Ethan, my husband of 28 years, rose from his seat in the front row, his voice shattering the silence like a grenade. He wasn't a hero. He was running. From us. From me. From the lie we'd all been living. That moment froze everything. The preacher's Bible mid-flip, the colonel's salute hanging limp, the cluster of uniformed pallbearers shifting like they'd been sucker-punched. My knees buckled, but I didn't fall, not yet. Because in that instant, as Ethan's words hung there raw and bleeding, I saw it all crashing down. The sun I'd raised to be unbreakable, the life we'd built on whispers and stolen glances, the truth we'd buried deeper than that grave they were about to dig. I'd always known loving a man in this country meant navigating minefields. Back in the 90s, when Ethan and I met at that dive bar in Richmond, hands brushing over a pool table like it was the first spark of revolution. We were both fresh out of the closet. Him a wiry journalism major with eyes like storm clouds. Me a broad-shouldered mechanic's son trying to outrun my Baptist roots. Aiden, he'd said that night, his breath whiskey warm against my ear. We don't get fairy tales. We get fights worth winning. And God, we fought. For every stolen kiss in truck stop motels. For the wedding we had in a backyard under a rainbow flag when the world finally cracked open in 2015. We adopted Lucas when he was 3. A scrawny foster kid with my crooked grin and Ethan's insatiable curiosity. Plucking him from a system that chewed up queers' kids like yesterday's news. We raised him in the rolling hills of Shenandoah Valley, in a clapboard house with a porch swing that creaked like our secrets. Lucas grew tall and golden, the kind of boy who could fix a carburetor blindfolded and quote Whitman like it was scripture. I taught him to shoot a rifle, to stand tall when the town whispers followed us to the grocery store. Those sideways glances that said, "Two dads? What's that boy gonna turn into?" Ethan filled his head with stories. Civil rights marches, Stonewall riots, the quiet revolutions of everyday love. Family's not blood, kid, Ethan would say, ruffling Lucas's hair over breakfast pancakes. It's the ones who stay when the world's screaming run. But cracks spiderwebbed early. High school hit Lucas like a freight train. Locker room taunts about his fairy fathers. The way he'd come home with split knuckles and excuses about tripping on the field. We patched him up, Ethan with ice packs and gentle probes, me with gruff assurances that real men didn't bend. You're tougher than all of 'em combined. I'd growl, ignoring the ache in my chest, the fear that our love had marked him for slaughter. He dated girls to fit the mold. Sweet Jenny from chem class, then that cheerleader with the laugh like wind chimes. But it was all theater, his eyes distant, like he was playing a role in someone else's script. College changed the script. Virginia Tech, down in Blacksburg, swallowed him whole. He majored in engineering, same as me back in the day, but called Les, his voice on the line clipped and careful. Doing great, Dad, he'd say, the word dad always for me, pop for Ethan. We chalked it up to growing up, to the grind of exams and keg parties. Then the ROTC bug bit him, drills at dawn, that crisp uniform hugging his frame like armor. Gonna serve like you always talked about. He told me over Thanksgiving turkey, his fork stabbing potatoes with military precision. Pride swelled in me, hot and fierce. This was redemption. Our boy proving the haters wrong, dying a hero in the making. Ethan wasn't sold. War's not a game, Aiden, he'd mutter after Lucas left, pacing our kitchen with that journalist's nose for bullshit. He's chasing ghosts. Yours, mine, society's. I'd wave him off, bury myself in the garage, tuning engines that never broke my heart. But deep down, I knew. Lucas's letters home smelled of ink and avoidance. Postcards from basic training showing him grinning with his squad. But no mention of the nights he might have spent staring at the barracks ceiling, wondering if he fit anywhere. Deployment came swift as a summer storm. Afghanistan, 2023, some dusty outpost near Kandahar. Protecting freedom, the recruiter called it, but it felt like sending our boy into the lion's den. We marked the days on a calendar Ethan tacked to the fridge, red excess bleeding into each other. Care packages flew out. My beef jerky, Ethan's dog-eared paperbacks. Notes that said come home whole. Then the call, 2 a.m. A major's voice like gravel. Sergeant Lucas Hale, Kia. ID ambush. Acted with valor, sir. Medal of Honor pending. The world ended in that ringtone. I drove through blackout tears to fetch Ethan from his night shift at the paper, our hands interlocking over the gearshift like lifelines. We didn't speak for hours, just held each other on the living room floor, the flag that had come in the mail draped over the couch like a shroud. The town rallied. Potlucks from neighbors who'd once crossed the street. A memorial fund at the VFW where old-timers clapped my back and called Lucas one of ours. I clung to that hero. It was the only thread keeping me from unraveling. The story I'd tell myself in the witching hours when grief clawed my throat raw. The funeral was stateside spectacle. Arlington wishes denied for some red tape bullshit, so we settled for the local cemetery in Waynesboro, hills cradling us like reluctant arms. Banners fluttered from the firehouse, heroes welcome, and the brass from Fort Lee showed up in full regalia, polishing Lucas's legacy till it gleamed. I stood there in my best suit, the one from our wedding, starch stiff against my sweat, reciting the eulogy Ethan had ghostwritten. Lucas was bravery incarnate, a light in the darkness. Lies, maybe, but they were holy ones stitching us together. That's when Ethan broke. Midway through the graveside service, as the chaplain droned about eternal rest, he surged to his feet, chair scraping like a judge's gavel. The crowd, 50 strong, mix of kin and comrades, went statue still. Rain dotted the programs, turning ink to smears. Ethan's face was a mask of fractures, cheeks hollowed by weeks of not eating, not sleeping. He clutched a manila envelope, edges frayed like his nerves. "Aiden," he said, voice carrying over the patter like thunder. "We can't do this. Not like this." My name on his lips, pleading, accusatory, twisted the knife. I reached for him, but he stepped back, unfolding the envelope with hands that shook. Inside, letters, a stack of them, tied with twine. Handwriting I knew was Lucas's. Slanted, urgent, the same that had penned "Miss You," Dad's on birthday cards. "Read it," Ethan demanded, thrusting them at the colonel first, then me. "All of you, because burying a hero? That's the real ambush." The first letter spilled out like guts, dated 6 months back, from a forward operating base. "Pop," it started, Ethan's title, always. "I can't pretend anymore. It's eating me alive. Remember that summer at the lake when you told me about your first boyfriend, how you hid him in the boathouse? I get it now. His name's Riley. The met in basic. He's from Montana. All quiet strength and green eyes that see right through the crap. We stole moments in the showers, whispers in the dark. It's real, Pop, terrifying real." My breath hitched, vision tunneling. Riley. A name I'd never heard. A ghost conjured from newsprint. The crowd murmured, "What the hell?" But Ethan plowed on, his voice rising like a dam breaking. Lucas wasn't charging that IED to save his platoon. He was running toward it, toward an end, because the army found out. Fraternization charges. They were gonna drum him out, brand him a disgrace. Don't ask, don't tell died, but the ghosts didn't. He wrote me everything. The threats, the isolation, how Riley shipped out separate to cover tracks. And me? I got these letters and did nothing. Told him to tough it out. Like we did. Betrayed my own boy. Betrayal. The word landed like shrapnel, embedding in my ribs. I'd been the rock, the one preaching duty, honor, be the man they can't break. But Ethan? He'd known. Weeks, maybe months, carrying this alone while I polished Lucas's medals in my mind. Whispers rippled. The colonel's face purpling, Aunt Marlene crossing herself. A young private in the back row wiping his eyes with a sleeve that hid tattoos I suddenly recognized as queer pride ink. I snatched the letters, rain smudging the ink, devouring words that bled truth. "Dad, Aiden, I'm sorry. I wanted to tell you, wanted you proud. But loving him? It's like loving you two all over again. Beautiful, brutal. If I don't make it, burn these." Let me be your hero one last time. The sobs came then, wrenching, as I sank to the mud beside the grave. Ethan knelt too, arms wrapping around me, his forehead to mine in that old way, breaths sinking like they had in hidden motel rooms. Why didn't you say? I choked, fists bunching his lapels. We could've fought. He laughed, bitter as black coffee. Like we always do? Or lost him sooner? His eyes, those storm clouds, cleared for a beat, vulnerability raw. I thought I was protecting him, protecting us. But heroes don't hide, Aiden. And neither should we. The service dissolved into chaos. Brass retreating with clipped apologies, mourners scattering like leaves in the gale. But a few stayed. The private, stepping forward with a quiet Sarge, was one of us. Handing me a photo. Lucas and Riley, arms slung casual in desert fatigues, smiles defying the lens. Ethan and I sat there till dusk, grave half-filled, letters scattered like fallen soldiers. That night, back in our empty house, we burned nothing. Instead, we framed them. Testimony to a love that outlasted uniforms and unspoken fears. Grief shifted then, from blunt force to a slow burn, illuminating shadows we'd ignored. Ethan dove back into reporting, pitching a series on queer vets, ghosts of Don't Ask. His byline a quiet roar for Lucas. I joined a support group at the VFW. Not the hero worship one, but the raw-edged circle where dads like me swapped stories of sons who loved fierce and fell hard. There, over stale coffee, I met Riley's father, Montana rancher, voice like wind over plains, who'd lost his boy to a sniper 3 weeks after Lucas. They were planning it, he said, handing me a bracelet of braided paracord. Riley's, stateside, after discharge. A life, Aiden. Not this. We built from those ashes. A scholarship in Lucas's name for LGBTQ plus youth eyeing service academies, with clauses for counseling, for coming out safe. Ethan and I fought more about my stubborn silences, his reckless truths, but it was the good kind, the kind that forged stronger. One evening, porch swing creaking under starlight, he took my hand, thumb tracing the calluses I'd earned hiding us once. We're not done fighting, you know? I pulled him close, lips brushing his temple, tasting salt of old tears. Damn right. For him. For us. And in that quiet vow, Lucas lived on. Not as myth but man. Brave enough to love, broken enough to run, whole enough to teach us grace. The days blurred into a haze of paperwork and condolences. Each sorry for your loss, a fresh bruise on my soul. Ethan and I moved through it like ghosts in our own home. Him pecking at his laptop in the dim glow of the study. Me tinkering in the garage until my hands bled from wrenches I gripped too tight. The letters became our scripture, reread in stolen moments. Lucas's confessions, his dreams of a cabin in the Rockies with Riley, kids maybe, adopted like he was, a family defying the odds we'd beaten. He was braver than me. Ethan confessed one midnight, whiskey glass trembling between us, admitting it when we buried ours so deep. I nodded, throat tight, remembering the night Lucas came out or tried to. It was his senior prom, rain lashing the windows like Judgment Day. He'd stormed in early, tux rumpled, bow tie askew, collapsing onto the couch with a sob that echoed my own hidden heartbreaks. Dad, Pop, I can't. It's not girls. It's... The words died there, choked by fear, and we'd let them, Ethan murmuring platitudes about time, me clapping his shoulder with a gruff. Whatever it is, son, you're hailstrong. Cowardice dressed as comfort. If we'd pushed, pried open that door, maybe he'd have spilled about the boys in his dreams, the crushes that mirrored ours. Instead, we watched him enlist, that uniform a shield we handed him unwittingly. Now, with the truth laid bare, regret gnawed like termites in our beams. The town turned, whispers evolving from pity to scandal. Those two dads turned the boy queer, drove him to it. Aunt Marlene, bless her narrow heart, showed up with lemon bars and Leviticus quotes, but Ethan shut her down gentle fierce. May, love's not a sin, hiding it is. She left teary, but a week later, mailed a check for the scholarship. Small victory in a war of words. Riley's dad, Tom, became our anchor. We drove up to Montana in Ethan's battered Subaru, the kind with coffee stains on the dash from stakeout nights, crossing plains that stretched endless as loss. His ranch was weathered pine and sagebrush, windmills creaking laments. Tom met us at the gate, Stetson low, eyes red-rimmed but steady. "Boys," he drawled, clasping hands rough as burlap. "Reckon we got ghosts to wrangle." Over campfire steak and stories, we pieced them together, Lucas and Riley's whirlwind. Basic at Fort Benning, where drills forged bonds tighter than blood. Riley, the stoic sniper with a poet's soul, quoting E. Cummings in foxholes. Lucas, the engineer rigging gadgets that saved lives, sketching future blueprints on napkins. Their first kiss. Under Georgia stars, post-march, adrenaline electric. "Anyone can hold the fort," Lucas wrote, "but holding him? That's the real battle." Tom had known about Riley since high school, caught him with a boyfriend in the hayloft, reacted with a shotgun blast to the sky and a hug that followed. "Shoulda told you fellas," Tom said, poking embers. "But Army don't ask, and fools like us don't tell." We swapped photos. Lucas's grin wide in desert sun, Riley's arms slung possessive. Laughter cracked through grief, tentative as spring ice, when Tom recounted Riley's attempt at baking Lucas cookies. "Burnt 'em blacker than my temper, but your boy ate 'em like gold. That trip mended something frayed." Driving home, Ethan asleep against my shoulder, radio humming Johnny Cash's "Hurt." I vowed no more silences. Back in Virginia, I outed our scars at the VFW. Standing in that smoke-hazed hall, brass tacks in the walls from old glories, spilling about the bar fights Ethan and I weathered, the foster system's queer phobia that nearly cost us Lucas. "My boy died loving a man," I said, voice steady for the first time. "And that's no shame. That's sacrament." Some grumbled, mugs clinking retreat, but others lingered. A grizzled vet with a rainbow pin on his cap, nodding slow. "Semper Fi, brother. For all of us." Ethan's series hit the Roanoke Times like lightning. Shadows of Service. Queer vets unsilenced. Front page with Lucas's photo. Not the posed hero shot, but one from home, arm around us on the porch, all three laughing mid-story. Letters flooded in. From closets cracked open. From bases where kisses still happened in shadows. One from a Kabul survivor, anonymous. "Your son saved me. Not with bullets. With a note he slipped me, saying you're not alone." We cried reading it, tangled in bed linens that smelled of him still, Ethan's fingers tracing my wedding band like a talisman. But peace was a tease, conflict brewing like thunderheads. The Army's investigation leaked. Whispers of a cover-up, how Lucas's valor report glossed the fraternization probe, painting his final charge as noble when it was desperate. Reporters sniffed, one from DC Press hounding our door, microphone thrust like accusation. "Mr. Hale, did your family dynamic contribute to Sergeant Hale's instability?" The word slimed out, implying our love broke him. Ethan answered, fire in his veins. "Instability? Try a system that chews up its own. Ask why they buried the truth." I pulled him inside before fists flew, but the damage festered. Nightmares plagued me. Lucas in fatigues, reaching across no man's land, mouth forming dad. Why? I'd wake gasping, Ethan murmuring anchors. "We're here. We're fighting." The climax crashed Memorial Day weekend. The VFW hosted a ceremony. Flags at half-mast, wreaths for the fallen, and we'd been asked to speak. Our scholarship unveiling a plaque. For Lucas Hale. Love endures all things. Town square brimmed. Families in lawn chairs, kids with balloons, the colonel from the funeral fidgeting on stage. I was set to MC, Ethan beside with notes scripted in his neat scrawl. Then the protesters rolled in, Westboro Light, pickets screaming God hates fags and no heroes in sin. Bibles thumped like war drums. They targeted us. Venom aimed at the plaque. Queer agenda poisoning our troops. Security. Off-duty cops with beer guts. Hustled them to the curb, but not before eggs splattered the stage. One clipping Ethan's temple, yolk dripping like blood. Rage ignited. I surged forward, words forgotten, ready to charge the line. fists I'd honed in garage brawls itching for release. Ethan grabbed my arm, vice tight. Not like this, Aiden. He wouldn't. But the crowd fractured, some cheering the hate, others booing it down. A bottle sailed, shattering at my feet. Shards glittered like accusations. In that melee, Tom appeared, driven through the night from Montana, truck idling curbside. He vaulted the barrier, bullhorn in hand from God knows where. Enough! My boy loved your boy, and they died for freedoms you spit on. Lucas Hale was a hero, gay, straight, don't matter. He was American through and through. His voice boomed, rancher's timbre cutting chaos, and something shifted. The colonel stepping up, megaphone commandeered, denouncing the ugliness in Lucas's name. We unveiled the plaque amid uneasy truce. Eggshells crunching underfoot, cheers tentative but real. Later, under oaks strung with lanterns, Ethan and I danced slow to a country cover of At Last. His head on my shoulder, wound bandaged but spirit unbowed. Betrayal's not just theirs, he whispered. Ours too, for not seeing him whole. I held tighter, swaying to the rhythm of heartbeats synced over decades. Then we atone. Every day. Summer scorched the valley like divine wrath, heat waves shimmering off asphalt, mirroring the fever in my veins. The scholarship bloomed, applications pouring in from kids with stories sharper than switchblades. A trans recruit drummed out for conduct. A bi-vet haunted by barracks hookups gone sour. We interviewed them on the porch, Ethan with his reporter's ear, me with mechanic's hands fidgeting tools like talismans. One boy, Javier, reminded me of Lucas. Lanky, eyes holding oceans of unsaid. I want to serve without the sword over my neck, he said, and we nodded, granting funds that felt like restitution. But betrayal's echo lingered, a low hum under our rebuilt rhythm. Ethan's series drew heat. Anonymous calls at the paper, faggot journalist ruining legacies. Tires slashed on his Subaru. He brushed it off with that defiant grin, but I saw the flinch, the way he'd check mirrors driving home. Old ghosts, he'd say, but I knew better. Our love had always been a target, from the bar raids of our youth to the foster hearings where judges eyed us like suspects. I confronted my own specters at the garage Hank's Auto, a brick-and-oil sanctuary since '95. My boss, old Hank, retired last year, left me the keys with a clap on the back. You Hales built this town tougher, but customers thinned post-funeral, whispers following me under hoods. Aiden's boy wasn't right in the head, blame the dads. One afternoon, Grease Monkey Eternal, I tuned a pickup for Pastor Ellis, the same who'd preached at Lucas's service, his eulogy heavy on sacrifice light on soul. He lingered after, wiping hands on a rag-eyed offer. Aiden's son, hard times, but God's got plans. His eyes, milky with age, probed like probes. That business at the funeral, Ethan's words, stirred the pot. I straightened, wrench heavy in fist. Truth does that, Pastor. Lucas deserved more than varnish. He nodded slow, regret etching deeper lines. I, and you, deserve peace. Church doors open, counseling, maybe. For the inclinations. Inclinations. The word curdled. Dredging baptisms I'd fled. Sermons damning men like me to fire. Appreciate it. I lied, voice steel. But my inclinations built a family. Saved lives. Yours. He left quiet, truck rumbling away. But the seed planted. Doubt. Insidious as rust. That night, over meatloaf Ethan charred on purpose. Reminds me of our first date, you fumbling the grill. I spilled it, words tumbling like loose bolts. Am I the villain here? Pushing Lucas to enlist, to be normal. Ethan set down his fork, hand over mine, calloused from keyboards not keys. Villain? No. Human, Aiden. We armored him wrong. But love? That was steel true. He leaned in, lips brushing knuckles, a kiss soft as absolution. Blame the system, not the heart. His words anchored, but sleep evaded, dreams twisting funeral dirt into quicksand. Lucas sinking while I reached futile. Mornings I'd wake to Ethan sketching cartoons now, for the scholarship kids. Caped queers toppling Don't Ask Dragons. Art therapy, he'd quip, but I saw the catharsis, ink bleeding his pain onto page. Fall brought harvest and harvest of reckonings. Tom's invite arrived crisp as leaves. Riley's memorial in Billings, a queer vets gathering, no suits, just souls. We flew out, my first time airborne since a honeymoon helicopter over the Grand Canyon. Ethan's whoops drowning vertigo. Montana welcomed rough. Flannel crowds in a community hall strung with pride flags, fiddles wailing laments turned anthems. Riley's service was raw poetry. No caskets, just photos on easels, stories swapped like sacred relics. A squadmate, buzzcut and tattoos, recounted their last op. Lucas rigging a drone to scout, Riley covering, banter crackling over comms. Eyes on you? Babe. Lucas teasing static. Laughter rippled, tears following. When a drag queen MC belted Over the Rainbow, in baritone gravel, dedicating to loves that outlast bullets. Tom pulled us aside post-ceremony, into his truck cab smelling of leather and loss. Found this, he said, handing a thumb drive. Riley's salvaged from effects. Videos. For Lucas. We watched later in a motel room, neon buzzing outside, grainy clips of sunsets over Hindu Kush, Riley's voice narrating dreams. Cabin by a creek, you fixing trucks, me herding clouds, kids calling us dad. Lucas's replies, voiceovers from letters, countin' days, cowboy, your ring on my finger soon. We shattered then, Ethan first, sobs muffled in my chest, my arms vice around him as if he might vanish. They had plans, he gasped, real ones, and we clipped their wings. Not us, I countered, fierce through tears. The cage. But look, we're breaking it. That drive held blueprints too. Sketches of that cabin, elevations marked Hale Riley Homestead. A future sketched in pencil prayers. Back home, resolve hardened. I quit the VFW Hero Circle, started a chapter for queer families. Hale's Holdouts? Ethan dubbed it. Meetings in our basement with folding chairs and fairy lights. First night, 10 souls. Javier bringing tamales. A lesbian couple from Roanoke sharing adoption wars. Stories flowed, betrayals by blood, redemptions in rainbows, and in sharing, I forgave fragments. My silence to Lucas, Ethan's delayed truths. Winter whispered warnings, snow blanketing sins. Christmas Eve, church bells tolling, we lit Lucas's tree, ornaments from his toddler crafts, a soldier angel atop. Ethan hung the paracord bracelet beside tinsel, Riley's touch eternal. To absent friends, he toasted eggnog, clinking mugs. But betrayal's final strike lurked in mail. A letter from the Army JAG, crisp as condemnation. Sergeant Lucas Hale, fraternization substantiated. Honor revoked. Family notified for record correction. No medal, no hero star, just erasure. Fury blazed. Ethan paced, drafting op-eds like missiles. I hammered the phone, lawyers on speed dial from his network. They can't, I roared to a paralegal, steal his light post-mortem. They can try, she sighed. But we fight. The call came Dawn's edge. Ethan, voice electric. DC's listening, Senator's office, from the series. Hearing next month. Climax brewed in that hearing room, Capitol marble cold as judgment. We flew up, ties choking, testimonies queued. Tom's gravel drawl on Riley's valor, Javier's fresh plea, squadmates in civvies recounting cover-ups. My turn. Standing at the oak podium, eyes on Ethan in the gallery, his nod my spine. Lucas Hale charged that he'll knowing the cost. I said, voice echoing halls of power. Not for glory, for love denied. Betray him now? You betray every kid dreaming dog tags and daylight kisses. Applause erupted unruly. The panel chair, a silver fox with rainbow lapel, leaned in. Mr. Hale, your son's record stands. Medal restored. Elation crashed like waves. Wept in the hallway. Ethan and I fused in hug, strangers clapping backs. For them, Ethan breathed, meaning our boys, our battles. Outside, cherry blossoms defiant in DC chill. We walked hand in hold, rings glinting promise. Humanity wins small, I said. Every time, he replied, kissing me fierce under spring sky. Spring unfurled tentative, dogwoods blushing against the scars of winter, but our wounds suppurated still. Nights when grief ambushed like insurgents, pulling me under with what-ifs. What if we dragged Lucas to that Pride March in D.C., his junior year, instead of letting football practice excuse it? What if Ethan's letters had smuggled Riley's photo, a talisman against isolation? Regret was a river, carving canyons in our complacency, but it irrigated growth too. The holdouts swelled to 20, potlucks turning basements to beacons. Ethan thrived in the fray, his bylines now syndicated, Roanoke Times to Washington Post, unsilenced, evolving to legacy lit. He chased leads like hounds. Interviews with Pentagon leaks, whispers from Langley on queer codebreakers silenced post-McCarthy. Journalism's revenge. He'd quip over Dawn coffee, but I saw the fire. Atonement for his silence to Lucas, for truths hoarded like contraband. Me? I grounded us, hands dirty in earth now, not just engines. Planted a garden out back. Tomatoes for Lucas's salsa obsession. Herbs Ethan chopped for fancy salads. Kneeling in soil, worms wriggling like secrets unearthed. I'd murmur to the boy gone. Proud now, son. See us growing? Therapy crept in too. Group sessions at the community center. Circle of chairs where widowers aired closets. There, I unpacked my armor. The Baptist boy who'd bashed his first crush's windshield in shame. The dad who'd equated strength with straight lines. One session fractured me open. Recounting the funeral, Ethan's revelation like a bomb. Felt betrayed. I admitted, voice gravel. By him for knowing. By Lucas for hiding. By me for blinding. The shrink, a soft-spoken dyke with silver braids, nodded. Betrayal's the thief of trust, but reclaiming, that's the romance. Romancy. God, we'd let it atrophy. Sex sidelined to grief's gutter, touches turned functional. Hand on back, not lingering. But summer solstice, full moon silvering the valley, Ethan planned a reclaiming. Packed a cooler, drove us to that lake from our early days. Shenandoah shores where we'd skinny dip defiant, hearts pounding to loons' calls. Picnic under willows. Wine from a vineyard we toured post-adoption. Cheese Lucas adored, stolen with toddler fingers. We swam at midnight, water cool as forgiveness, bodies brushing accidental on purpose. On the blanket after, stars pricking velvet, he traced my chest scars. Appendix from '09, heart line from stress. Still mine, he whispered, lips following fingers. Slow burn, not lust but reclamation. We made love gentle, whispers weaving vows renewed. No more hiding. Dawn found us tangled, his head pillowed on my thigh, world remade in afterglow. Yet conflict coiled, serpent in Eden. The army's restoration rang hollow, metal mailed in plain envelope. No ceremony, brass dodging spotlights. Protesters morphed online. Trolls doxing our addresses, hail fags desecrate heroes, hashtags trending local. Death threats pinged Ethan's inbox, forcing police watches at holdouts. Price of truth, he shrugged, but sleep fled him, shadows under eyes like bruises. I snapped one July Eve, after a brick through our window, fags burned scrawled red. Shards glittered on living room rug, family photos cracked like our facade. Ethan swept calm, but I raged. Enough! We move Idaho Tom's ranch. Let the vultures have Virginia. He faced me. Broom paused, eyes storm fierce. Run? Like Lucas did. The slap of words stung truer than stone. Aiden, this is our ground. Fought for it, wedding here, adoption battles, his first steps. We hold, or what's left? Argument erupted, voices echoing empty halls. Me accusing cowardice masked as principle, him my fear as chains. Plates shattered, not thrown, but slammed in fury. Remnants of his nana's china, wedding gift. We stormed separate. Him to the study, me to the truck, peeling gravel till taillights faded. Hours later, midnight rain lashing, I returned to silence. House dark but porch light golden. Ethan there, swing creaking, letters in lap. "Read this again," he said, voice raw. "Lucas's last. If it gets bad, dads, remember the swing, where we fixed the world with stories." I sank beside, rain mingling tears. "Sorry. Scared of losing you too." He leaned in, forehead to mine. "Then fight beside, not ahead." We mended slow. Apologies over dawn eggs. Window boarded but spirits unsealed. Decided stay, but fortify. I installed cameras. Ethan lawyered up for harassment suits. Holdouts went hybrid, Zoom for safety. In-person armored with allies. Climax crested Labor Day. County fair gone fever dream. We'd booth for the scholarship. Banners bold. Love serves. Photos of Lucas and Riley airbrushed respectful. Arms linked. Smiles defiant. Crowds milled cotton candy sweet, but undercurrents soured. Glares from church groups. Kids pulled away whispering. Then the ringleader emerged. Pastor Ellis's son. Bulked deputy with a grudge. Flanked by picketers. "This filth honors a deserter?" he bellowed, yanking our banner down. Fabric ripping like flesh. Chaos bloomed. Shouts. Shoves. My body shielding Javier as fists flew. Ethan yelled for calm. Phone filming live. Roanoke Times breaking. Hate at the heartland. I tackled the deputy. Ground crunching ribs. His knee to my gut expelling air. "For my boy," I gasped, vision spotting. Sirens wailed distant, but Tom's voice cut closer. He'd driven down unannounced, bear hug dispersing the mob. "Back off, Sonny, or face a rancher's justice." Cops hauled the deputy. Fairgrounds buzzing aftermath. Bruised but unbroken, we packed the booth. Banner salvage draped like a flag of truce. That night, hospital stitching my lip, Ethan held vigil, thumb stroking my palm. "Hero move, cowboy." "Laurel and Hardy," I mumbled, high on painkillers. "You the brains." Outside, media swarmed, Ethan's footage viral, headlines shifting. Dads defend son's legacy amid assault. Senator called next morn. Bills moving, HAIL Act, protections for queer service members. You're doing. Triumph tasted bittersweet, cuts healing slower than hearts. Fall deepened, leaves carpeting paths we'd walked with Lucas, school drop-offs, bike rides, his ROTC parades. We traced them deliberate, Ethan reciting Whitman at Ben's. I sing the body electric, voice weaving our triad eternal. One crimson afternoon, orchard bound for apples. Ethan paused mid-stride, hand to chest. "Aiden, feel this?" His pulse thrummed wild under palm. Not fear but joy. "He's here. Still." I nodded, kissing knuckles. "Always." Betrayal's thorns yielded to roots, humanity's quiet bloom. Autumn waned to winter's hush, frost etching windows like fragile maps of memory. But our frostbite thawed in incremental graces. The HAIL Act passed slim margin. December frost, a bipartisan miracle. Ethan dissected over victory scotch. Pork for red states, pride for us. It enshrined counseling mandates, anti-frat probes for bias. Lucas's ghost inked federal. We attended the signing, Capitol aglow. My suit ill-fit from garage paunch. Ethan's tie rainbow-threaded subtle. Handshakes with suits felt surreal. Senator gripping firm. "Your boy's turning tides, Mr. Hale." I nodded mute, throat lumped. Ethan eloquent beside. Tides rise when dams break. Photos snapped. Us flanking the bill, smiles strained but true. Flashes popping like suppressed applause. Homebound, snow blanketing Shenandoah like absolution. We hosted holdout solstice. 50 now. Folding chairs circled round a menorah pride cross hybrid Javier crafted. Stories cascaded. A non-binary cadet awarded our fund. First out at West Point. A widow unveiling her late wife's purple heart, hidden decades. Laughter laced tears when Tom videoed in. Ranch fire crackling. To outlaws and lovers, hoist 'em high. New Year's dawned crisp. Resolutions whispered over black-eyed peas. Mine. To write Lucas's bio. Unbroken lines, truths unvarnished. Ethan edited nights. Red pen gentle. More heart, less hammer. Chapters flowed. Our meeting at that Richmond bar. Cue chalk dusting knuckles. Lucas's first I love you. Toddler arms fierce. Riley's letters, borrowed from Tom, interlacing their epic. Betrayal's residue lingered in margins. Passages on my silences, Ethan's hesitations. But forgiveness framed them, humanistic lens blurring blame to bridge. We're the prologue, Ethan said, closing the manuscript. They're the legend. Spring 2026 green tentative. Dogwoods defiant. The book deal landed soft, small queer press in Brooklyn. Launch in DC Pride. We drove up, Subaru groaning under boxes, stopping at Arlington en route. Finally approved, Lucas's stone stark under oaks. Knelt there, earth thawed. I traced his name. Sergeant Lucas Hale, beloved son, eternal flame. Miss you, kid? I murmured, paracord bracelet looped round marker. Ethan added a pebble. Jewish custom for return. We'll be back. Promise. Pride exploded rainbow riot. Floats thumping gaga, leathers and liturgy mingling. Our booth thrummed. Unbroken lines stacks vanishing, fans queuing for signs. Javier emceed, voice steady. For the Hales, who taught me heroes bleed. Ethan read excerpts, stage lit, tears gilding prose. I followed gruff, wrenching laughs from tales of Lucas's prank wars. Dyeing Ethan's socks pink. Climax crested sunset parade. Us atop a float. Love's last stand. Banner salvaged from the fair. Confetti rained, cheers deafening. But my heart snagged on a face in the throng. Pastor Ellis, frail now, sign hoisted hesitant. Forgive us our debts. He approached post-march, hand extended shaky. Aiden, read the book. Saw my boy in those pages, his anger my failing. Sorry don't fix, but it start. I clasped it, calluses meeting papery skin. Starts with saying. Ethan nodded beside, arm round my waist. Public claim, unapologetic. Welcome to the fight, Pastor. He nodded, tears tracking. Overdue. Summer solstice circled back. Lake calling. We invited the circle, holdouts. Tom's hologram from afar. Picnic sprawling shoreside. Swimsuits and stories. Grill smoke curling prayers. As dusk dipped, fiddles unspooled. Javier's band. Queer folk fusion. Ethan pulled me to dance. Barefoot in shallows, water lapping ankles. 10 years since the cabin dream, he said, sway sinking. Think they'd approve? I glanced skyward, stars pricking early. More than, they'd be building it. Us included, weekends wrenching. Laughter bubbled, his against my neck. Grandpa's, huh? Spoiling rugrats rotten. Vision warmed. Hypothetical heirs, Lucas's grin in their mischief. Riley's green in curious stares. No blood, but boundless. Our legacy, adopted anew. Fall harvest hummed contentment. Orchard apples yielding pies Ethan botched charmingly. One crimson eve. Swing creaking confessions. He turned serious. Aiden, retire the garage? Travel with me. Chase stories, not shadows. Heart stuttered. Hank's keys my tether. Grease my gospel. But eyes met his, storms cleared to seas. Only if we write M together. Deal sealed with kiss, porch light haloing vow. Winter wrap gentle, snow soft as surrender. Christmas, tree aglow with Riley's bracelet twinkling. We gifted each other. Ethan a leather journal. For our sequels. Me, tickets to Montana. Cabin viewing. Tom's land parcel marked Hale Riley. New Year's toast. To betrayals mended. Love's enduring. Spring bloomed full. Dogwoods preaching resurrection. We broke ground on the homestead. Shovels biting Montana clay. Tom toasting dirt. For the boys. Beams rose summer slow. Weekends ferried in Ethan's Subaru. Hands blistered but bonded. Dedication day. Autumn gold. We hung the sign. Enduring flame cabin. Inside, walls papered letters. Lucas's slant. Riley's block. Testimony eternal. Porch swing installed, creek familiar, we sat at sunset. Mugs steaming cider. Humanity's not grand gestures. Ethan mused, head on shoulder. It's this staying building. I kiss temple, wind whispering accord. And loving loud. In that hush, ghosts gathered. Not haunting, but harmonizing. Lucas's laugh in breeze, Riley's drawl in rustles. Betrayed once, redeemed forever. Our story, unfinished, unbowed. Epilogue whispered. Years on, cabin hosted holdouts retreats, grandkids, adopted fierce. Tumbling lawns, stories circling fires. Ethan and I, silvered but synced, swing-bound, hands clasped eternal. Worth every fight, he'd say. Damn right, I'd echo. And the valley, distant but dear, echoed back. Heroes home.